What's up out there? Last Epoch is set to release here in about a week and a half on February 21st, 2024. I am a longtime ARPG enjoyer and enthusiast. I have been playing this style of game since Diablo 1 created the genre. There may be others before that. You can argue the semantics and all that in the comment section. I don't particularly care. For me, this style of game started with Diablo 1. Diablo 1 started it, Diablo 2 basically refined it and set what the foundation or fundamentals of this style of game should be. So you're going to hear me talk a lot about that. And that's because that's the two games that started this and basically created and revolutionized this genre. There are many games that have came out since then. At the time when Diablo 1 and 2 were out, there was a bunch of clones and knockoffs. Like I know there was a game called Nox. That was like one of the more known games of that time period. But then over the years, we've had other ones, like we had Titan Quest came out somewhere in there. The people that developed Titan Quest went on to form Crate Entertainment that worked on Grim Dawn. Or some of those people formed Crate Entertainment and worked on Grim Dawn. Grim Dawn's an excellent game. The problem with Grim Dawn is it was kind of limited to its budget. So they didn't have a lot of voice acting. They didn't have a lot of cutscenes, things like that. It's a more bare bones, but they took all of the money that they saved from the cutscenes and dialogue and stuff like that, and they made a really good game. A lot of the things that you'll find in Grim Dawn are here in Last Epoch. So it's not that these games necessarily revolutionize each other. They just kind of refine each other as they go. And each time you get a new one, you get a little bit of all the other ones that came before it. It's kind of cool looking at it because you can see the lineage of all this stuff. Like you can go from Diablo 1 and 2. My experience was Diablo 1 and 2 over to Titan Quest, over to Grim Dawn, over to Wolcen, and now Path of Exile, Last Epoch, that kind of thing. That's kind of how I've gone. And you can see the elements of all the other ones in each other. So it's kind of cool to see all that. The unfortunate side is there's just not a lot of ARPGs out there. Like looking at my Steam folder in here, I mean, I played Wolcen when it came out a few years ago. I don't really care to go back through it. I wouldn't mind playing it for the story and the campaign. Most of these games I play for the story or campaign and I call it done. The idea of an end game or leagues and stuff like that is a more modern take within like the last decade than the older games would imply. Like if you go back and play Grim Dawn, there is the base game and then 3 or 4 expansions. I think they're coming out with either the 3rd or 4th expansion here soon. We get a Grim Dawn expansion this year from what I've seen. So I'm hoping that is good. Hopefully we get Grim Dawn 2 sometime in the future. But there's not a ton of these games. There's a series called Van Helsing. I think there's 3 of them. I have not played those. I bought them. Steam sales are great, so I've got those. There was a game called Noxia that I need to check in on development and see how that's gone. But there's other ones like Sanctum Breach came out, Victor Vran. I need to play that. I played a little bit of Sanctum Breach. It's a very bare bones game. There's a game called The Spirit. There's Shadows Awakening. There's Warhammer Inquisitor Martyr. Of course, there's Wolcen. Dungeon Siege. I own those, but I've not played them. There's some other ones that you'd look at, like they're, I don't want to say low budget, but they're lower tier. They're not as well known, so I'm not really going to mention those. There was a game that I thought was really promising called Malice. It was like a very much spiritual successor to Diablo. Unfortunately, it was a solo dev that was developing on it. And once we had all the lockdowns and COVID and all that stuff happened, the country he was in had like mandatory police service or something. And then he just wasn't making money developing the game. So he had to go do other things and he's just not gotten back to it. It's unfortunate because Malice had so much promise. And then one of the more popular entries into this whole thing is Hades. Now Hades is, it mixes the ARPG style of game with, what do they call that over here? That is, it's totally escaping me. Rogue. It's a rogue-like game. So even though, let me get back to where's my thing here? Even though Hades is an ARPG style of game, it's more rogue-like than anything. So it's got that, they're both kind of overlaid on top of each other and it deviates away, but it deviates in a good way. Now you're going to hear me talk about Diablo 4 and whine about Diablo 4 and bitch about how much I hate it because Diablo 4 deviated in a bad way from what an ARPG is. So let's dive into this before I get to yakking too much. I'm going to do that anyway, but I wanted to lay a little baseline out because I think people are starting with Diablo 4 today don't understand that there are 3 other Diablos before that and nearly 30 years of ARPG development history that has happened with all these other games that established how an ARPG should play, what it should look like, how it should feel, things like that. And like this game gets almost all of it right. I don't want to say it gets everything right because I just haven't played this game enough to be able to, sit down and put a stamp of assurance on it that this is the perfect ARPG. And second of all, it's not even launched into full release yet. But this game gets a lot of things right. So with just a little bit of brief history, Diablo 1 was a game with a hub world and then like 10 levels of dungeon. I think it was 10. It might have been 12. It's been 20 years since I've played the entire game. I've played a lot of it, but not like I haven't played it all the way through. But basically you started off in a church, you went through 3 or 4 levels in there, and then you went into a catacombs, and then you went down into hell itself, fought Diablo. Imagine a Diablo game that actually contains Diablo and fight him. Anyway, Diablo 2 came out and is more like, or Last Epoch is more like Diablo 2, where you have a hub world, and then you go out into that hub world and go into all these different areas. Like, you've got all these different areas to go into. Each one of these branches off the hub world and comes off of it. I mean, you'll find a different hub world eventually, but as you cruise through here, you're going to find monsters to fight and stuff like that. It's just, this is how these games are. They are put together in such a way that you have a hub world, you go out into each level and fight each level and get to the next hub world. And the worlds are typically a good variety. So you might have, like, this is where Diablo 4 gets it wrong. Everything is that shitty open world mud garbage. Whereas all these other games, you'll notice this is purple. Caves. There was an area I was in earlier that was a castle. So it was like castle themed. Then the next world, the next area after that was forest, like green lush forest. It didn't all look the same, boring brown. And it didn't have monsters that were all scaled to the same level. Like you can go back to those earlier levels and the monsters are easier. You can, extremely overpower them. I think that's a good thing. I think everybody being the constant level that Diablo 4 is poor. I think that's poor design. I think that's lazy. I don't know. You want that power fantasy when you're playing these games. Did that just pick all that up? Huh. Or was that one item? I'm a little unclear on that. But in my opinion, that's one of the big things Diablo 4 gets wrong. I don't mind that it has an open world, but I think the open world is just bland and boring. I don't like that you have to generate this rage or fury or whatever that meter is on the side. Every ARPG in existence ever, or nearly every one, always has your health on the left, your mana on the right. You get your health back either by leeching or by potions or whatever, and then you'll get your mana back. It either refills for you. Grim Dawn refills your health for you, but I think you've got potions you got to use. They never hinder your skills behind some stupid wall where you have to go generate something. Like in this game, this is refilling my mana as I sit here. So my cool skill, this Warpath skill, it uses mana, and I can get my health back through a potion. There we go, we leveled up. Hey, why is this guy back? Oh, he just wasn't dead. But in Diablo 4, you have to use piss poor skills to generate enough rage to use the good skills, which is horrible design. I think that's stupid. You should be able to use the good skills anytime you want. Why is this guy waving at me? Oh, hey, how's it going, buddy? We can look at the level up thing here real quick. So there are skills in this game, and I think these are ascensions like Path of Exile has, I think. So I'm running Sentinel. I'm a melee player, and I don't know whether I'm going to go into Void Knight, Forge Guard, or Paladin. I'll probably try different ones out, respec into them. But you can spec into one of these skills. So like I'm currently spec'd into Warpath, and if you ever play Grim Dawn has a similar concept to this. Visually, it's similar. It's not necessarily identical, but it's kind of visually similar to this. Oh, that's what it is. So I need to put 2 points into that before I can go into here. All right. So if I wanted to go down here to Gorebringer, Bleed. Do we want to do bleed or do we want to do Warpath deals more damage? Oh yeah, that sounds good. There we go. So for each second you continuously spin, Warpath deals more damage, multiplicative with other modifiers in a larger area, but costs more mana per second. Okay, so that's why I want this mana reduction cost. Okay, so how much mana does it cost? Now it costs still 1. So I've probably got a lot of mana reduction going on. And then we've got this. This is your passive skills. Now, if you go into Path of Exile, that's just got this massive passive tree. This is more similar to the way Grim Dawn does a passive tree. This is visually similar to the way Grim Dawn does. As you put points in, this yellow bar moves further to the right and opens up more of this thing here. So I can go into Relentless here and do more damage. It moves my bar over. I have to actually spend 4 points here to be able to go over here to Banish, but I can't even get to Banish until I've moved the yellow bar over enough to get there, if that makes sense. So there's the passive tree, there's your skills, and you can choose which skills you use. I'm running this Rive, this thing. In Diablo 4 speak, this would be the shitty skill you use to build up to where you can use Warpath. Rive I just use occasionally. Really what I'm using is Rebuke a lot, which is this bubble that comes up. You hold this to channel for 2 seconds. You take 80% less damage while channeling, and then when you stop, you deal a bunch of physical damage to all nearby enemies. It deals 20 additional physical damage for each hit you receive while channeling. So basically, what I do is I go Warpath for a little while, and then when I run out of my mana, I go into this bubble, and then when I come out of the bubble, you take hits while you're in the bubble. You also generate life and mana as you go, but then when you come out of the bubble, you do a lot of damage to the enemies around you, which is good. Yes, I am here. Where are we here? Yes, yes, yes. What gets me through all this? You can't really skip the dialogue. You have to kind of go through the options, which I'm okay with. That's another thing I really hate about Diablo 4 is that they make you sit through all this boring amount of dialogue. Not only does it take a minute or two to walk to the destination on the shitty open world, but then once you do get to the destination in the shitty open world, you have to sit for 5 minutes and listen to conversation. One of the best things Diablo 4 has ever done is to just let you skip the complete campaign. I thought the campaign was horribly boring and just a waste of time. Generally a waste of time. But anyway, I'll get off that soapbox before I get too far into it, because I've recorded this video I don't know how many times because I start whining about Diablo 4 and then yeah, I gotta quit doing that. So anyway, last Epoch, and I may have mentioned it already, I don't remember if I did or not, but on one of my Diablo 4 rant videos, somebody said that Path of Exiles ruined me on Diablo 4, or on this style of game, and I'm sitting here playing this game happily. So that's not the case. No, you can absolutely enjoy all these different games. What you will typically find. Oh, these guys. Oh, okay, that's where it came from. What you will typically find with ARPG enjoyers is that there are few of these games out there. So when we get one, we don't have a competition of which one is better. We like them all, and if they're good, now if they're bad or if they have problems, then of course. But we typically like them. I probably should be paying attention to what this is, but I'm not. But anyway, most of us enjoy these games, and we will definitely tell you that Grim Dawn's a worthwhile game. It's not necessarily as pretty as Diablo 4. It doesn't have all the cutscenes and all that stuff. So if that bothers you, oh yeah, I did do this before. Okay, I have done this. I remember the council chambers thing. So I did this a few years ago. But most of us will typically recommend Diablo 1, 2, 3. Diablo 3 is definitely not as good as 1 and 2, but if you were to compare it to 4, it's far better than 4 ever could possibly be. But anyway, then you've got Grim Dawn. You've got Grim Dawn's an easy recommendation. Last Epoch looks like it's going to be an easy recommendation. And that's kind of about it. There's not like a ton of other games that are out there that are really good representations of this. I would recommend Wolcen. Ultimately, it is, I don't want to say it's a great game. It's good. I think it's fun. But, I mean, I would definitely recommend Grim Dawn or Last Epoch over it. So your mileage may vary. Now, you'll notice that you are walking quite a bit in here, and This is what's going to, I'm kind of interested to see how this game actually gets received, because if you look at the Diablo 4 crowd, they're into a far more simpler game. You know, the whole joke about the dad with drinks a beer a day and has 50 kids and 30 jobs or something like that, whatever that meme is these days. But it's a simpler game. It's definitely not got the complexity that this has. It's not set up like, you know, it's got the open world. People may enjoy that. I don't know. It's not anything like this style of ARPG. But then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got something like Path of Exile. Well, Path of Exile, because Path of Exile's it. Drops affix shards. That's cool. Hey, it actually picked them all up too. Kind of like that auto loot thing where it just gives you everything. That's cool. But you've got Path of Exile on the other side that is just insanely complex, and I'm kind of interested. I'm kind of intrigued to see how those people receive this game, because on one hand you've got a game that's so simple you can describe it on a napkin, and on the other hand you've got a game that takes a college degree and 5 applications, third-party applications to understand. And this game is firmly in the middle. This is what your typical ARPG is. It's like the monster density is not massive. I don't know what the end game looks like on this, but I can't imagine it's anything like Path of Exile is. Like, Path of Exile is the extreme, like the very far extreme. Now I'm hitting the travel one. Still trying to get used to all the control schemes on this. But like you notice, you tend to walk for a little while before you fight monsters. This is kind of how these games are. They're kind of chill. They're not like some... It's not like you go into Path of Exile and you're fighting 1,000 monsters in the map. You know what I mean? Like, you may fight 50 or 60 or something like that. It's just not got that insanity. So I'm definitely curious to see how this is received. I, as a fan of an ARPG, really dig this kind of game, and I think this is very cool. I think this is a very good implementation of an ARPG, and I think it's what most of these typically would be known as. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to when this comes out. I think this video's gone on long enough. I've rambled on. I always feel like I'm rambling in these videos, and I probably do get to. Hopefully I did not sit and fixate on Diablo 4 very much, but mainly the point of this video was to show off Last Epoch, give my thoughts on it a little bit. I think this is fantastic. I'm looking forward to full release. I think the graphics are not great, but it looks like it's going to have a huge graphical overhaul once the release gets here. I was around when Wilson released, and it looked amazing. I don't remember what engine it's built on. It's the same engine that Hunt Showdown and Star Citizen is built on. So the Crytek engine, CryEngine, it was built on that, I think. And it looked amazing, but it had a lot of fundamental problems. This game looks like it's fairly well developed, and it may not have those issues. So hopefully we get a good launch. One of the big things that this game has is offline mode, and people want that because I totally didn't think about Steam Deck, but you can play this on Steam Deck. You can play this when your internet's out. That is a huge bonus. Like, I had an internet outage the other day that lasted an entire day. I couldn't play Path of Exile. I couldn't, I was in the big hardcore game mode that only lasted a certain amount of time. And I basically had to, I bowed out because I died and, I had other issues going on, but I had a whole day that I couldn't play because I had no internet. And that's one of the big flaws with Diablo 4. There is no offline mode. And it's unfortunate because offline mode is great for when your internet's down or when you're in a vacation somewhere with your Steam Deck and you can go play it. Anyway, I need to get out of this video. Otherwise I'm going to keep talking about all this, and I actually have an upgrade on this thing I can go apply. But anyway, this game looks fantastic. I can't wait for it. I will be there on February 21st. We will have some form of content on this. I don't plan on doing build guides or anything like that. I'm going to do probably some kind of series or something. I don't exactly know how I'm going to do this yet, but there will be content coming for Last Epoch for sure. I am 100% in on it, and I am looking forward to it. So that will do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.